Throughout the course of history, India has been a center of attraction for rulers and travelers worldwide. They have always been attracted to ample opportunities our country provided and have been intrigued by the diverse culture, religion, and traditions. Most of these travelers who came to India wrote their own accounts which deal with its unique focus area. Some travelers wrote about the affairs of the court, while some focused on contemporary style of architecture and monuments or depicted the social and economic life. Every such account presents a true picture of the then Indian civilization. In the ancient and medieval period, many prominent travelers visited India and recorded their observations. A key thing to note that no account of women travelers is available. In this episode, we will discuss the foreign travelers during ancient India. Megasthenes. Megasthenes was an ancient Greek historian, diplomat, and explorer in the Hellenistic period. He was born around 350 BC. Megasthenes visited India between 302 to 288 BC as an ambassador of Greek warrior Seleucus I Nicator. He visited the Maurya capital Patliputra during the reign of Chandragupta Maurya, who was the founder of Maurya dynasty. He described India in his book Indica. Unfortunately, the original copy of this book was lost. Later, famous Greek writers such as Arrian, Strabo, Diodorus, and Pliny referred to Indica in their works. Modern Greek scholar E. A. Schwanbeck collected several fragments of Megasthenes' works, and based on his collection, John Watson McCrindle published a reconstructed version of Indica in 1887. Indica described the subcontinent as a quadrilateral shaped country bounded by the ocean on southern and eastern side. It also gives us the detail of soils, rivers, plants, animals, administration, and the local and religious life of India. His book also communicated that Indians worshipped Lord Krishna during that time and there existed 7 castes in India. He founded 2 major aspects of Indian caste system, that is, endogamy and hereditary occupation. He was influenced by the Herodotus' classification of the Egyptian society. The major faults of Megasthenes' work were the uncritical acceptance of Indian folklore and a tendency to idealize Indian culture in Greek philosophical point of view. Fa-hien. Fa-hien was a Chinese pilgrim who visited India during Gupta period around 400 AD. He visited India during the period of Chandragupta II, that is Chandragupta Vikramaditya. He came to visit various Buddhist monasteries and took the copy of religious texts. He visited Peshawar, Takshila, Mathura, Kannauj, Sravasti, Kapilvastu, Sarnath, and many other places. He compiled a travelogue record of Buddhistic kingdoms. His book details about the religious and social life of Indians at that time. Some aspects of India that can also be found from this book are Buddhism and Hinduism were the most popular religions at that time. Buddhism was more popular in Punjab, Bengal, and the region around Mathura. He studied Sanskrit language in Patliputra. He described internal and foreign trade of India as well as its ports. India had trade relations with China, countries of Southeast Asia, Western Asia, and as well as with Europe. Huen-Tsang. He was a Chinese traveler, Buddhist scholar, monk, and translator. He came to India through Silk Route in between 629 to 644 AD during the reign of Harshvardhan. He was also known as Huen-Tsang and the Prince of Pilgrims. From his famous book Siyuki, Buddhist record of the Western world, many details of administrative, political, religious, economic, and social conditions during those days in India can be found. However, the descriptions were biased so as to glorify Buddhism and praise King Harshvardhan. Some aspects of India that can also be found from this book are: in Siyuki, he described mainly the city life in India in terms of construction of various types of houses, city streets, etc., especially of Kannauj. As per his account, Prayag was a prominent city and the importance of Patliputra was replaced by Harshvardhan's capital Kannauj. Shravasti and Kapilvastu had lost their religious importance and instead Nalanda in Bihar and Vallabhi in Gujarat became the centers of learning. As per his text, Harsh divided state's income into 4 parts: 1/4 for routine administrative expenditure of the state, 1/4 to pay government employees, 1/4 to scholars, 1/4 as charity to Brahmin and Buddhist monks. He, however, narrated that travelling was not safe during that time. According to Huen-Tsang, Harsha was quite laborious and a welfare-focused leader. During his stay, Huen-Tsang visited Kashmir, Punjab, Kapilvastu, Bodh Gaya, Sarnath and Kushinagar. He also travelled through the Deccan, Odisha and Bengal. He spent 5 years at the University of Nalanda and studied under Acharya Shilbhadra. His journey to India was recorded in detail in the classic Chinese text Great Tang Record on the Western regions. In the next episode, we will discuss the foreign travellers in medieval India. Al-Masaudi. He was an Arab historian, geographer and explorer. He was a prolific author and he wrote on various subjects like theology, history, geography, natural science, philosophy, etc. He was also known as the Herodotus of the Arabs. He was born in Baghdad and descended from Abdullah ibn Masud, a companion of Prophet Muhammad. He combined world history with scientific geography, social commentary and biography and is published in English named The Meadows of Gold and Mines of Gems. Al-Masaudi wrote his famous manuscript named Muruz-ul-Zahib in 956 AD. Al-beruni was born in Khwarazm, present-day Uzbekistan, which was an important center of learning then. He was a scholar who was well versed in Syriac, Arabic, Persian, Hebrew and Sanskrit. In 1017, Sultan Mahmud invaded Khwarazm and took many scholars and poets along with him to his capital, Ghazni. He was one of them. Here, he developed interest in India. Also, owing to the inclusion of Punjab in the Ghaznavid Empire, he spent years in the company of Brahmin priests and scholars where he learned Sanskrit. Marcopolo. Marcopolo was an Italian merchant, adventurer and writer. He was born in the Republic of Venice in 1254 AD. His travels from one country to another are recorded in his book, The Travels of Marcopolo. His book mentioned that China had large area and great wealth. He wrote a detailed chronicle of his experiences in his book, The Book of Sir Marcopolo. This book inspired Christopher Columbus. Marcopolo visited the Kakatiya kingdom in around 1289 AD during the reign of Queen Rudramadevi. It can be found from his work that a woman named Rudramadevi had inherited her father's throne and ruled the dynasty as a kind and benevolent ruler. Other than these books, he wrote several manuscripts like The Customs of the Kingdoms of India, Florida, Marcopolo, Travels in the Land of Serpents and Pearls, etc. Ibn Battuta was a Moroccan traveller who was born in Tangier. He belonged to one of the respectable families known for their expertise in Islamic religious law or Sharia. Throughout his life, Ibn travelled extensively in Syria, Iraq, Persia, Yemen, Oman and a few trading ports on the coast of East Africa. He came to India in 1332-33 AD during the reign of Muhammad bin Tughlaq, who then appointed him as Qazi or Judge of Delhi. In 1342, he travelled to China as a Sultan's envoy. Before reaching China, he travelled extensively. The account of Ibn Battuta is often compared with that of Marcopolo, who also visited both India and China. Ibn Battuta wrote a book on travels in Arabic called Rihla. It provided vivid details about the social and cultural life of India in the 14th century. Nicolo-di-Conti. Nicolo-di-Conti was an Italian merchant and explorer. He crossed the Arabian Sea to Cambay in Gujarat and entered India in 1420-1421 AD. He travelled to Passamuria, Heli and Vijayanagar kingdom. At that time, Dev Rai I sworn on the throne of Vijayanagar. In Mylapore in Chennai, he found the tomb of St. Thomas, which ensured the presence of Christian community in India. He confirmed the gold and spice trade amongst India, Sumatra in China. He referred Telugu language as Italian of the East. The first printed edition of the Conti's manuscript came out in 1492 in original Latin by Cristoforo the Bullet. The Conti described Southeast Asia as overtaking all other regions in terms of wealth, culture and magnificence. Abdur Razzaq, he was a Persian, Timurid scholar and a scholar who visited the Vijayanagar kingdom at the time of Devrai II. He gave an account of the reign of Devrai II. He came to the court of King Zemurin of Calicut as an ambassador of Shah Rukh, the Timurid dynasty ruler of Persia in 1442. He wrote a 45-page narrative of this mission to India. It appears as a chapter in his book Malta us Sadain wa Mazma ul Bahrain. Domingp Paes, he was a Portuguese merchant, writer and explorer who visited India between 1520-1522 AD and gave the most detailed account among all other historic descriptions of the ancient city of Hampi under the reign of King Krishnadev Rai of Tuluva dynasty under Vijayanagar Empire. He recorded his journey in his book named Chronica dos Reis de Bisnaga, where he provided in-depth information about Vijayanagar Empire. He reported the following features about the empire: advanced irrigation technology that allowed the peasant to produce highly yielding crops at very low prices. A wide variety of cultures were shown in crops and vegetation. He described a busy market of precious stones. The city was prospering and its size was comparable to Rome, with abundant vegetation, aqueducts and artificial lakes. William Hawkins, he was a representative of the English East India Company and an ambassador of the British King James I. He came to India in 1608 and travelled to Agra in the court of Mughal Emperor Jahangir to negotiate for the establishment of a factory at Surat. Favor by Jahangir enabled him to overcome all difficulties, and this permission was the first distinct recognition of English commerce in the East. Sir Thomas Roe, he was an English diplomat and a member of the House of Commons during the reign of Queen Elizabeth I. From 1615 to 1619, he stayed at the court of the Mughal Emperor Jahangir. The main objective of his mission was to get protection of the factory of British East India Company at Surat. The book, The Embassy of Sir Thomas Roe to the Court of the Great Mughal, 1615 to 1619, as narrated in his journal and correspondence, is a valuable contribution to the history of India in the early 17th century. His Journal of the Mission to the Mughal Empire is a treasured contribution to the history of India. Jean-Baptiste Tavernier, he was a 17th century French gem, specially diamond merchant and traveller. In his life, he made 6 voyages to Persia and India. During his second voyage, between 1638 to 1643 AD, he came to India and travelled as far as Agra and from there to the kingdom of Golconda. He also visited the court of Shah Jahan and made his first trip to the diamond mines. In his book, he has extensively discussed about diamond and the diamond mines of India. He is popular for his discovery and purchase of blue diamond that he subsequently sold to Louis XIV of France. Francois Bernier. Francois Bernier was a Frenchman who was a doctor, political philosopher and historian. He came to India in 1656 and stayed here for 12 years in the Mughal Empire. His writings were often a comparative account with the practices and developments in Europe. He constantly compared Mughal India with contemporary Europe, especially France, trying to portray the latter as superior. He mostly wrote about the prevalent social and economic life. He severely criticized the Mughal Empire, calling them king of beggars and barbarians. In his vivid account, he has described that there was a lack of private property in the land in Mughal India. He felt that artisans had no incentives to improve the quality of their products since the profit was appropriated by the state. He described Mughal cities as camp towns because towns owned their existence on the imperial camps. He also wrote in detail about workshops or imperial karkhanas. Merchants were organized in their caste-cum-occupational bodies like Mahajans, Sheths and Nagar Sheths. If you want to know about anything else, please leave it in the comment box so that we can come back with it. If you have liked the episode, please like, share and subscribe.